Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Chord-O-Coaching, the series where you get to take a look inside what it's like one-on-one Magic limited coaching. We're back, as always, with our good friend Nathan. Nathan, how's it going?
Doing really well. You?
Sweet. Yeah, I'm doing awesome. We've got a cool thing today for us to look at. You sent over some gameplay from the Arena Open that happened a few weeks ago. So usually at this point in the format, the drafts have kind of settled out. People have a decent idea of how to draft the format, and we like to shift our focus away from the drafts and towards gameplay. So what Nathan's brought to the table for us today is two of his losses from day one of that Arena Open. If we just take a look at the deck just quickly here, Nathan has kindly provided us with the sealed deck link, or the 17 lands link. And I'll just take a look. Nathan, what are some thoughts, some highlights about this deck before we get into some gameplay?
So I was actually pretty happy with the pool that I opened. So again, this is for day one, so you're just kind of stuck with whatever you open.
Yeah.
What I had zero experience with the Kamigawa. I had never drafted it, never built around it, so I wasn't sure how aggressive to be with my fixing and my build for my pool. So my first build didn't have it in there. I think I was just pretty much straight green-black with a little bit of splash of white. And I was like, you know what? I already kind of need red for my Hitotsuga, which you can see in there, right there at the top. And, I already kind of, I'm basically already only going to add blue on top of that to get there. And it looked like my lands would potentially get me there. I mean, maybe a bit aggressive for a stretch, but I decided to go for it and just kind of build it.
Yeah.
So I made this 5-color weird abomination.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's the Kamigawa is this some much needed power in this deck. Not that your deck is like, it's got some good stuff. It's got Tech Wrecker, it's got Gloomshrieker, it's got this guy over here, it's got Double Bestage. So maybe much needed is a bit aggressive. But I think that when you're playing sealed, just go for the power. You've got the fixing, relatively anyways. You got the grafted growth, you've got the network terminals, double lands. It's not too far of a stretch to play this card, especially because the games do go long and you'll be able to cast this card eventually. So I do like this build. It's cool. This isn't a build, we're not exactly looking at the build and judging it, but it does get the thumbs up for me. So, like we usually do with these, we'll just go through them. We'll talk about the mulligan. If there's any spot, Nathan, that you'd like to stop me and to talk about any play, feel free to stop me, and if not, I'll do the same as well, where if there's anything that's cool, I'll just be like, hey, let's stop here, talk about this decision. But let's look at this mulligan first. Let's keep or mull, Nathan. What are your thoughts here?
So I ultimately kept, but it's fundamentally already a mulligan, right? With the Kamigawa there and having a green and black. I have to basically rip all the other 3 colors to get there. But I thought with the Kappa Tech Record into being able to ninjutsu it out with the Ambusher and also the Soul Ripper there, that I had enough action and things to do in the first couple turns that it felt like it would be good enough for a keep. Or if I needed to go slowly, the Kappa Tech Record can tie up the ground and draw a couple extra lands. I wasn't really sure on this, and this is why I wanted to bring this up to say, like, what would Alex have done?
Oh yeah, I think this is certainly a keep. So for a lot of reasons. One, like you mentioned, you've got that awesome, Tech Wrecker into another Ninja Star, which can just destroy some decks on its own, right? Forget about any other cards in your hand. As long as you have lands and that combo of Tech Wrecker plus other ninjas, you can just start looping things, especially another 2-mana ninja. So that's already a big step in the direction of me wanting to keep this. I guess maybe jumping the gun a little bit here. The bigger step in the direction of me wanting to keep this hand is you're playing sealed, and mulligans hurt more in sealed because it's about card quantity or card quality a lot of the time, and also you have the time in sealed to kind of, if you have a kind of clunky hand, to draw out of it. So certainly a keep, I would say. And the other thing I would actually mention here is you said, the Kamigawa is already a mulligan. I'd push back against that a little bit because it's a mulligan in the sense that, like, if this is a true mulligan, you start on 6 cards, you're never getting back that 7th card. It just, disappears into the ether. But once you draw your fixing, your terminal and your grafted growth, it's like you draw another card, you draw that Kamigawa again because you can cast it. So it's still a 7-card hand, even if that 7th card gets unlocked a little bit later, is the way I would look at it.
Do you think about it that way in draft too? Because like I definitely think of this as like, even in draft, I'm like, this is a mulligan fundamentally.
Well, it's a function of how long you think the game's going to go, right? Because if you think the game is going to go for, 4, 5, 6 turns, yeah, you can kind of think of it as a mulligan because you're not even going to use all the cards in your hand. And that, really means if you're playing an aggressive deck, right? Because you hope the game doesn't go that long. But if you're playing a game that goes, 10 turns, yeah, you're going to have time to unlock that final card, I would say.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, let's get into some gameplay here. We do end up keeping the hand, I believe. Yep. And we go on You play the Leech Gauntlet, and that's already actually kind of an interesting play because we have a lot of options here. We can play the Tech Wrecker, we can play the Leech Gauntlet, we can even play the Soul Ripper. What are your thoughts there?
I think my logic there was Leech Gauntlet if they're going to start slow can get in for more damage and more lifelink earlier, and will enable my other ninjutsus as well. Whereas if I did the Kappa Tech Wrecker, I would have to ninjutsu in the Ambusher to get it back. I guess that has lifelink too. I don't know. I think I was just trying to push more damage and get more lifelink damage down now.
So it's funny. I think this would probably be the last card I played out of the three options: the Soul Ripper, the Leech Gauntlet, and the Tech Wrecker. So if your goal was to push the most damage, I think Soul Ripper is the one I would do, right? Because you can play it turn 3, crew it, attack for 4. It's a lot of damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to get the Tech Wrecker potentially going, it's probably better just to play the Tech Wrecker rather than try to ninja it, because if they play a 2/2, they're just going to block your Leech Gauntlet. If they play a 2/2 and you play Tech Wrecker, well, they can't block that at all, right? If you play Tech Wrecker in 2, it's going to make it really hard for them to play anything, to be honest. So I would, depending on what you want to push here, damage or get the Tech Wrecker going, I'd probably lean towards the Tech Wrecker, personally. I would probably play the Tech Wrecker or the Soul Ripper. If you play the Tech Wrecker, you get in, it makes their life really, really hard. Maybe they have a removal spell, but you know what? If they have a removal spell, like, they could always hold it up at instant speed. Like, if they have a Kami Slayer or something, your Tech Wrecker's not getting in anyway. So, yeah, I think I would be figuring out which one of those I wanted to do. Probably lean towards the Tech Wrecker, as that one makes my life, or my opponent's life, the hardest.
Okay, so mistake.
All right, so let's go on here. So they play... Okay, so they do have a Kami Slayer. All right, cool. So
I was playing around that. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, exactly. You knew they were going to have that. We draw a network terminal, which is good for the Kami War, of course, and we decide either between the Tech Wrecker or the Soul Ripper. I think at this point, I would play, the Tech Wrecker, because there's no guarantee that you can crew the Soul Ripper. All right, so they play the planes. You get to play the Tech Wrecker. You attack the Tech Wrecker. We say nothing. Yep. Of course.
I wish that wouldn't ask if there was no target.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a little...
So annoying.
A little additional click. All right, they play Jukai Trainee, and they Banishing Slash your Tech Wrecker. All right, that's fine. No harm, no foul. We go on. You play the Soul Ripper. Missing some land drops, but you know what? That's okay. Like, it's kind of funny here. I'd be feeling the pressure a little bit if maybe this was draft and they had a good curve out here, but they've been pretty slow to start, right? Like, yeah. They're playing and befriending the Moths here, which pushes some damage. But you, as long as you draw your third land, you can really start to get going because you go Network Terminal. Yeah, there we go. The Nezumi Road Captain flips. This is all fine. We can even get in with the Soul Ripper or block with the Soul... Well, I guess no, we're going to get in with the Soul Ripper because you can't block with the Soul Ripper because this thing is going to have flying. And they play Tanuki. All right, so that is a large monster. So now I'm feeling the pressure a little bit more, ever so slightly.
Yeah.
They don't attack, interestingly enough, though. They were afraid of you cracking them back, apparently. So we play our Slump here. And
so this is a point in the game where obviously I play the land, but I wasn't sure what sequence to get these cards out of my hand. Boseiju helps me guarantee land drops coming up. Hidetsugu potentially could also hit land drops, I guess, with the red ability, right? And start to clear their board, or just dropping the Ambusher as another blocker with lifelink, and then I think the Ambusher is a 3/1, right? So it can tag team to trade to kill the Tanuki.
Yep.
I was like, obviously I went for the Boseiju, but what would Alex have done?
Yeah, I think that, so my baseline is get Boseiju, or honestly any Saga down as soon as possible, because you really want to get that thing flipped to become a creature ASAP. If you decide to play a creature first and then go, okay, well, I'm going to play my Boseiju later, there can be circumstances or situations where you're like, uh-oh, I really wish I had that creature a turn sooner because they played, a large creature I needed to block. So it's generally, unless there's a very, very pressing reason that you should play not the Saga first, you should play, a creature that can block. I'm just going to default to playing the Boseiju. And you're at 19. Yes, they have a 2/4 flyer coming soon, and they have a creature attacking you, but I don't think that's quite enough pressure for me to not want to just play the Saga here. So here's an interesting spot. We say, do we attack or not? And it looks like we do. Thoughts on this? Not saying it's wrong or right, but curious.
I think I was trying to simplify the board at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was just, the less pressure they can send my way to attack, the easier my life gets.
So it's interesting because they actually do end up blocking here, right? If I remember, yeah. So they end up blocking. They were scared of this Soul Ripper. If I'm them, though, and I don't know their hand, and they don't know, what your hand is. So there's some hidden information here. Not everybody's going to be making the perfect plays if the hands were revealed. If I'm them, though, I might just take it. Like, if they take it, they go to 9, right? But then they have a 6/6, a 2/2, and a 2/4 attacking you the turn after. Like, maybe their hand is very defensive, right? And they go, okay, well, I just want to be trading here. But I think there's a risk for you. Like, okay, here, let me rewind that a little bit. I'm unsure if this block is good for them or bad for them. I don't know their hand. But from your perspective, I could see this attack being very bad for you. Because if they just say, sure, take it, right? Then they're going to be attacking you back for 7 points where you don't have a lot of defense. I mean, sure, you can play this 4/4 next turn and lifelinker next turn, but I think one removal spell really puts you off base and really just like kicks you when you're down. So I think that I would probably just be looking to trade the Soul Ripper with the trainee. Now, that ended up happening here, but I think you giving them the choice makes it a bit sketchy here. So I think your goal is just to survive. You've got this Kamigawa, you've got, the Hidetsugu, you've got this Boseiju coming off, right? I think I'm very much in defense mode, so I'd be looking to block, not attack here. It works out for you because they did end up, blocking with this, and you've got the same thing happen. But if the context of their hand is a little bit different, where they say, hey, this is a great opportunity, I'm attacking here, or my opponent attacks me here, I can, kind of shove that in their face and go, great, I get to attack you back with a lot of creatures.
Makes sense.
All right, let's move on here. So that trade happens, and we go on. There are moth flips. So yeah, we're kind of at parity. The Boseiju coming off soon is definitely going to be good for us. They play in a Ecologist Terrarium, so nothing too scary just yet. They put it on the moth. All right, and they attack you for 6. Okay, back to your turn here, and we play our big old bomb rare. We attack for 3. Actually, let's go back here for a second. We attack with a Road Captain. We buy it back. There we go. I missed that part. Yep. And then we play our big old scary thing. I like that. The life gain really offsets their pressure here. And I don't think I'd be looking to double block. So it's kind of anybody's game at this point. Okay, they play an Ogre Head Helm. That's going to be a problem because now they get to refill up. That's not something.
Yeah, just to be completely honest about, my experience, this is the first time I've seen that card on the battlefield. Like, I didn't know what it did. I mean, I read it, but I didn't realize the power of it. Yeah. And I was like, man.
It's like, uh-oh.
sacking a creature doesn't seem that great. But then I guess they already enabled 2 attacks with the befriending and just refilled their hand. Yep. So, yeah.
All right. So, our Boseiju flips. We are still in an okay spot, I would say. It's not, they drew 3 cards, but all is not lost. So, from this point on, or from this turn, what do we want to be doing here, do you think?
I mean, if I don't remember what I did at the time, but now I would probably... I'd probably jam the Ambusher to offer the trade. If they decline, in my second main, I would activate Hidetsugu and hopefully kill the Helm. Mm-hmm. And then if that didn't work, I would drop the Reckoner Raid.
So we're in kind of a tough spot, right? Because with the Hidetsugu, you can activate it, but if you miss, it's pretty bad, right? Activating most of the stuff in your deck will kill the Helm, so that's good. But if you do miss, it is kind of catastrophic because you're down a blocker, you hit a land, and now they have this, they can equip, and maybe not catastrophic because you can just double block still, but that opens you up to getting blown out. So there is some merit, I think, just to leaving back, saying, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna chill out here, just try to block, make their life hard. I think you're right to activate here if that's what you ended up doing.
Yeah, I don't know what I did. I hope that's what I did.
Yeah, because okay, so we do activate, and I think that's right, because I just think that if you just sit by idly, it's just gonna, there's a good chance that you get punished for that as well. If you had something else to do with your mana, at the end of their turn, maybe, but I think it's right to activate here. You get to play Gloom Shrieker, which is obviously great for you. All right, you get it for a lifelink hit, too. Yep, get back to Tech Wrecker. All right, so they look like that they are flooding out a little bit, and here comes kind of a key moment. Okay, so this is an interesting play, actually, from you. So we go for the double block here, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think I did it because if I don't absorb all of the damage, or at least 1 point of the damage, I'm gonna die.
Yep.
So I think I was worried about a pump spell. Yeah, probably a pump spell is what I was worried about.
Right. So I guess the thought here is if they have a removal spell, they can remove your Boseiju. Like if you just single block with Boseiju and they have a removal spell, they get to kill you, right? You're at 6. The trample from the Tanuki goes through, so it's probably safer to double block here. I think that's good. If you were at a higher life total, you could play with your life a bit. I think you just single block here, because if you double block, you get really wrecked by a removal spell, right? But you know, it's worse. Getting wrecked by a removal spell is not so bad when it saves your life here. So that is actually a pretty good double block there, and that was a heads up play from you. So you go to 1, and they play an air. Okay, so we are in kind of a tricky situation here. We go back to 2. What are your thoughts about this play here? Before we look at what previous Nathan did yesterday, Nathan, what do we like doing here?
I mean, it's kind of a scripted turn in my opinion. You drop the, well, actually maybe it's not. I would drop the Tech Wrecker, and here's what I struggle with in this moment. Do I leave up the activation of Hitotsugu, or do I cast the Boseiju?
Yep.
I think now I probably would leave up the activation. I don't remember what I did.
Yeah, so this is a really tricky spot, because so I think your only play here actually is to play the Tech Wrecker and pass the turn. So you've got your Hitotsugu plus Tech Wrecker as a blocker, and now you don't have a clean block in the Tanuki because they'll kill you if you don't double block it. So you need to double block it. So I think the hope here is you play the Tech Wrecker, you double block Tanuki, only one of your creatures dies in that spot, and you activate the Hitotsugu, trying to hit a 3 cost or above thing to kill the Fang. Because otherwise, there's nothing really you can do. I mean, you can chump with the Hitotsugu, play the Boseiju, play the Tech Wrecker, they jam their air into your Tech Wrecker, you kill, basically your Hitotsugu dies, their air dies, but you're down a lot more life, or in a really tricky spot.
I think I still die if
actually, sorry, you do just die. No. So that's your only block. Forget it. You can't even chump, right? So I think that's the only play. And what do we decide to do here instead? We instead activate this, correct?
I think that's what I previously did.
Yeah, let's see.
I think that's the worst of all the lines. So I think the line that I outlined earlier, what I would do today was better. Ultimately, it wouldn't have mattered. But.
Yeah, so we did hit a land, and ultimately it didn't matter. But I think that's the line there. I think the line there
I mean, it could have mattered. So that was a punt on my part. And I think that ultimately, I'm going to say that ultimately lost the game, but that was a poor line by me.
Yeah, I think the out there was you just have to hope to, hit that thing off the top of the library, because now you're just, pretty much dead on board, unfortunately.
So, I mean, now we've seen how this game plays out. Like, is there anything that I could have done differently to win this game? Like, I mean, regardless of how I played it, that card was going to be a forest, right?
Yep.
Is there anything that Alex sees that Nathan could have done differently?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, one of the tricky things about Magic is it's very, very the butterfly effect is very, very relevant, right? Where it's just like there's such compounding outputs on small decisions early. So this play might have mattered a lot, right? I don't know if that world exists where this play matters, where you play the Soul Ripper instead of the Kappa Tech Wrecker, or you play a different 2-drop potentially. They kill whatever you play. Maybe you play the Soul Ripper. They can't use their Kami's Flare efficiently. So it's really tough to say if that would have mattered. I think
it does, actually, just to talk through it with you. If I had done Tech Wrecker first, they would have Kami's Flared that. I could have followed up with the Leech Gauntlet, and the Leech Gauntlet can crew the Soul Ripper. Whereas here I'm stuck with the inability to crew the Soul Ripper.
That's a good point, yeah. That might have mattered, because then the Soul Ripper could have blocked a little bit earlier, potentially, like on block the Jukai training. Maybe you don't take a few points, and then if you don't take a few points, that means you don't have to make as awkward of a block like 4 turns down the road or something like that. So that's exactly what I mean by these compounding decisions, right? All right, so that's our first game here. Let's look at the second one. All right, so our second game here, we've got a celebrity match here. We're facing the Samuel H. Black, Sam Black here in the house. So we keep this hand, which is totally reasonable hand. Do you have any recollection of how this game went beforehand?
Yeah, just 2 funny anecdotes here. One is I was like watching people's streams while doing the open, just because I wanted to multitask, and I was watching his stream and I noticed we got paired. So in my moment I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. I don't want to be like watching somebody's hand. I think that's just terrible. So I got out of there before his hand showed up. But I had been watching some of his games previously, so I knew some of the cards in his deck, and I was like, this is not going to go well. I guess we'll see how it goes.
All right, let's see how he wrecks you here. So looks like Sam is deciding to kill this Leech Gauntlet with a Voltage Surge. That is what happens. All right, fair enough. No plays on your part that you could have done differently. Plays a Ecologist Terrarium. All right. goes and gets a mountain. We draw our Kamigawa, we commune, and we've got a decision to make. So we can either take Boseiju, land, or Reckoner Raid, and we end up taking.
I need to look at my hand, but I think I end up taking the Boseiju because I think I still had another land drop in hand, and I thought, I thought if I just drew one more land, I would be able to hit Boseiju.
Yep, and you got a land cycler, so don't even have to worry about that. Next turn, you can definitely cast the Boseiju. So that's the best thing. I mean, it's just the most powerful card. You're just going to take that. It's not like you're in dire need of hitting land drops. So Sam plays a Blade Blesser, which is fine. You go for the cycle. Yep. We play our Boseiju, which, we're in an okay spot here. I mean, I'm sure Sam's got some awesome cards in hand, but we don't play the Boseiju potentially. Interesting. We were thinking about it, but we ended up playing the Ambusher. Thoughts on that?
I wanted to try to keep my life total high. That's all I was thinking. What would you have done? Basically, I had three options, right? The Ambusher, you could Harmonious Emergence to get a 4/5 down.
Yep.
Or you could Boseiju.
I would definitely just play the Boseiju here. So, I mean, there's some thought to saying Sam might be playing an aggressive deck with maybe some, drain effects where every point of, the life that you preserve matters. But also Sam hasn't gotten off to that much of an aggressive start, right? Where the first thing he's playing is a 3-drop here. And, the Ambusher is okay, but I think it's a much worse play than the Boseiju for the reasons that we were talking about before, where it's just much better to... if you later decide, hey, I would really have liked that blocker, you just, that just it can't be a thing if you haven't played it early. So my baseline of just play the Boseiju early on turn 4 still stands here. If you were in a position where Sam went 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, yeah, play a Lifelinker. I think that's pretty reasonable into the Harmonious Emergence. But we're just not under that much pressure, and we're even at 23 life because we played a tapped gain land and we cycled the Samurai. So I think the life total is not that big of a concern here.
Okay.
All right, so Sam plays a Long Reach Knight, and we decide to sacrifice. Ooh, interesting. Thoughts on that?
I thought all of the cards in my hand had a higher upside. Maybe discard the Swamp, but my thought was with the Swamp, I'm guaranteed to have a 4/5 blocker the next turn. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't draw, if I drew something not related, I was going to just get punished again. I guess I could have done the Boseiju.
Yeah,
what would you have done?
I think my thoughts is I'm going to play the Boseiju almost certainly anyways, so I'm going to have the lands in hand also. And the fact that you have the 3/2 lifelink attacking Sam back, it mitigates this Blade Buster so heavily, right? So the thought of like, oh hey, I need this Harmonious Emergence to block. Well, number one, blocking a Death Toucher is kind of... Obviously, you can block and trade and save some life, but you're spending 5 mana to deal with Sam's 3 mana threat here. Where you kind of already with the Ambusher, that thing is already dealing with the Blade Buster in a way, right? It's already kind of removed it, right? In the sense that you're gaining 3 life back when Sam's attacking you for 3 here. So
I guess that's spurious logic anyway, because now it has Menace because of the enchantment.
Right, now it has Menace too, so it's not like you'd be able to block. So yeah, I think just I think it's just the priorities are a bit off here, where I think it's not that important to hit the 5th land on 5. It's not like this Emergence is going to be critical to get down. The Boseiju is going to get you lands anyways, and sacrificing a creature in play is just really, really painful, especially when it's going to gain you life. So yeah, I would say that something I would have done differently.
I think that's probably the point where I lost this game, I would assume. I don't remember everything that happens.
Because now the thing is, with one removal spell in this Boseiju, like now that we've sacked a creature, we don't have our board presence. If Sam does have a removal spell for when this Boseiju flips, it's just really, really punishing, especially with a Menace creature in play and another Menace creature on the way. So
yeah.
Another small point, you probably, it's very small, but the fact that you got a creature in the graveyard instead of a forest or a land means that that the Long Reach is going to be a little bit bigger when it comes off suspend too. So
I guess the only plus side is by sacrificing the creature, I didn't have to discard or sacrifice a creature on the second one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that is actually a fair point. You don't have to. The second chapter here doesn't matter for them. All right, so Sam then plays, thinks for a long time, and plays a Surge Hacker mech. All right, well, that's a big ol' attacker. We go to our turn, and now we are under a lot of pressure.
Another thing with Menace.
Yeah, another thing with Menace. Sam's just on Menace Tribal over here.
I mean, there's not too much to think about here. It's basically Network Terminal and Harmonious.
Yep, exactly. We can't, it's not like we can block with the Emergence this turn, so we just play the Network Terminal. And then, if we draw a Red Source or a Grafted Growth, I guess we can't go Grafted Growth into Common War next turn, but soon enough. Yep. only play here. All right, Sam has a unstoppable ogre, so you're going to get bashed for a lot of damage here. You're going to be taking 8 at a minimum from the mech and the blade blesser. Yep, and the Ronin. So, yep, taking a whopping 10 points here. And now this is another game where I'm not sure how much it matters. And Sam puts the counter there. If you play a little bit differently, but man, having a lifelinker in play, I don't know, actually, that actually might have made the difference, right? Because
I think the lifelinker would have been mitigated. Like, I think the mech would have killed it, or the ogre would say it can't block, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So the mech would have killed it, but you'd be at 3 higher life. And so it's really tough because I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. But 3 higher life, just like in the last game, is the difference between you having to make an awkward jump and not having to make an awkward jump. It's the difference between going like, wow, I just have to like give up my board here because I'll just die if I don't, versus, hey, I can play with my life tool a little bit, right? So it's not even so much that like, oh, the ambusher would have died. It's that fact that you do have that 3 life, which is important.
I guess, it's like they talk about on LR, don't be results oriented. I made a bad decision in the moment, whether the results would have played out a different way or not. Like that. In the moment, it was a poor decision.
Well, and I also think it matters, right? I think it matters what the outcome is. It's good to think about the outcomes. But one of the things, just maybe one of the themes for today's episode is just it's so hard to kind of predict the outcomes or even look back and like, oh, how my game would have played out if I did the X, Y, Z, because things are so different. On turn 2, you play a different 2-drop. On turn 3, you play a different 3-drop, right? If you make a different play.
Yeah.
All right, so Menace Tribal backed
crushed.
up by a bunch of removal, and that's the game. Sam
and
unblockable,
Sam
was merciful in the sense that he killed you quite quickly here.
Yeah, it was over in a heartbeat, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, which this is a success story when it comes down to it. You did actually make day 2 in this event, so those are your only 2 losses. So that's pretty sweet. So congrats on that.
Yeah, that was my goal. Was we talk about making milestones and improving. Like, this is I've done 3 of these now, and this is the first time I've made day 2, and I did it on the first buy, which was cool. Day 2, just to fill everybody in, I guess to plug your podcast talks about oh gosh, you can give me the exact title, but forcing, right? Like knowing which avenues and which channels are good avenues to force, and like knowing in advance which paths are successful. I think I'm going to have the same takeaway that I have almost every single time that we do these gameplay videos, where I say, I didn't really see anything differently that I could be doing in the moment. But when you actually take a step back and look at the video, obviously there are, even in these 2 short games, I think both were like 5 minutes each, there were multiple places where you would have taken a different line than I did. And I think you would have, I think you probably would have the same results in these games, but you would have set yourself up better should the cards have fallen just slightly differently.
I think that's a big difference when, a lot of times when I'm doing coaching sessions, we'll go through and it's not, sometimes there's clear, you could have won this game. And that's oh my goodness, like I learned so much. I could have won that game, and it's very clear cut. And it's like, wow, I see what I should be doing differently. Right. And there's other ones where it's like, well, I would have done X, Y, Z differently here. And maybe, like in the games today, it wouldn't have maybe turned out all that different. Maybe it would have, again, we can't, rewind time and see how the decision trees pan out differently, right? But it's all about the process, right? It's not about the outcome a lot of times, because there are going to be games. Here's the key. There's going to be games where those decisions you make and making better decisions do matter, right? Maybe it's not this game. Maybe it's not the previous game you looked at. They're going to happen, though. And long term, that's how you're going to get your wins. So,
yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap up another episode. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us once again. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Chord-O-Coaching. See you later.